Well, hello. Today I would like to talk about a German fountain pen, so I'm going to give you my first impressions of a Kaweco v101. I have several pens of the V series, and what makes them V pens is that they have kind of a V hood over the nib. Now, what makes this pen somewhat unique amongst the batch is that it's the only one in the series that has a three-digit number. It's also very similar to the Kaweco 37G, which I either have filmed or will film a review today of that pen. One other thing I think worth mentioning, to make my collection work a little bit better, I'm starting to use these little tags in my storage so I can keep track of which pen's which. Works pretty well. I tried putting it on the clip at first, and I think I like it better over one of the straps that holds the pen in place. So this is the Kaweco V101. It has a lot of similarity, as I said, with the... Oh, yeah, and I'm really doing it. My Kaweco my Kaweco 37G. At least it will till I open it up. These are a little bit larger than your typical Kawecos of that series. They were apparently comparable to some of the other big name pens of the time. So let me just open up my 101. So we have on the top, of course, the Kaweco logo. Nothing here. A trim ring to protect it. This is apparently a rolled gold cap, which has to do with how much gold is in it and how it's made. You know, it's gold filled, which I believe is what this one, the 37G is. It's got a little more gold content. Here we see Kaweco v101, extra fine. And then just barely see that there's a piston turning knob on top. Unscrew the cap. And we are left with a blue segmented ink window. And yep, now you know it's gold. And a hooded with kind of a V nib. And the piston operates fairly smoothly. It looks like a silicone piston. Just briefly to compare it to the 37G. The 37G does not have a hooded nib, but a lot of features seem to be, a lot of features seem to be quite similar. But this is not a video about the 37G. We're talking about the V101S. V101. Oh, I didn't show you the feed before I do this. And it posts decently. I'm not much for posting, but whatever. So let's fill this up with something interesting. I am feeling California Aurora with this pen. So let's go for it. What's the worst that could happen? Permanently stain the inside of your nib. You get mold in your pen. It never writes again. Okay, yeah, so bad things could happen. Totally did that off screen. Got lots of bubbling there, which is a good sign. Can't really see the ink window anymore, so it's a good thing I showed that to you. Just do a little wipey wipe off screen with a little privacy here. And let's see how she writes. MyOberPens.com, which is where I purchased it, suggests that the nib is going to have a little bit of flex, so I'm curious to see that. Of course, being a vintage pen, well, actually, usually when I get from MyOberPens.com, I'm not so careful about pen hygiene because I trust them to have been thoroughly clean, but if you buy vintage, generally, give them a little clean. So this is a Kaweco 101 with the extra fine nib. The ink in it is Califolio. Yeah, we definitely have some bounce to this nib. Aurora. When I say bounce, what do I mean? Well, that's a terrible angle. This is awkward for me, but it probably looks a little better for you. Yeah, and see, those tines aren't really spreading apart much, but there is flex there. So as far as flex, wet noodle? No. But definitely has some flex. Wetness and flow. I think that did pretty well. Smear test. I think it will smear. This paper is more absorbent than perhaps my typical paper, but yeah, I think that performed decently there. And reverse writing, if you're into that kind of thing. A smooth enough, ultra extra fine. And the world famous Peer Gustafson test, where we just take the pen off-roading and see its maximum potential. A few places where it slows down, but that's angle, I think. Overall, I think it did pretty well with the Peer Gustafson test. So I think this will be a fun little pen to have in my arsenal as a daily writer or whatever. One other test I always like to do. Yeah, that fit right on. I have a v101, which I like very much. I've made the remark a few times it could almost replace the Lamy 2000 as my daily writer. I just like the Kaweco pens of this series. They are so well made. And I'd like to see Kaweco get back to that. Kaweco, one of these days I'll have to get into the history of the company, but yeah, we're not dealing with your grandfather's Kaweco anymore. We'll leave it at that. Just as a point of interest, through the magic of video editing, I got up, crossed the living room, went to where my Kaweco V14S was recently cleaned out and is waiting, because I put one of those tags on it, waiting to get put back in the case, and then I'll put the case or the tag around the elastic band. But for now, it's on the pen. Alright, so again, they are about the same size. Unscrew the cap on the V14S. The ink window is a bit different. Of course, you can't see it on this one anymore. But yeah, very similar. The V14S isn't a very soft nib, but it's more of a daily writer type of nib, but it is gold. Has some bounce to it if you ever write with it, but not the same kind of bounce as this pen. And fun fact, myoberpens.com has one for sale right now. V14S. This V line, as I've gotten more of them, they're very similar to each other, and they all have their own minor little differences. So one of these days I'm going to have to do a video where I compare them all. Not yet. I need to get initial videos of each one filmed, but that's a project in the works for way down the road, so I just put it my to-do list and my someday maybe list. So I hope that was interesting, hope it was useful, and yeah, if you're looking for a good, reliable vintage piston filling pen, the Kaweco V pens. I don't remember all the numbers that they have, but I have been impressed by each and every one that I've used. And I just love the looks of them. In fact, that V14S that I showed you briefly there, that's really the pen that started me down this path of lesser known vintage pens. I just fell in love with it. I bought it with a Reform 1745, and quickly started adding way too many more vintage pens after that. So, well, thank you for watching. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.